Welcome back with my newest record buying video. I bought three new vinyl records. I've ordered them as usual through Discogs, and they arrived 3 days ago. I'm recording this on a Monday. They arrived on Friday. So I had the weekend to listen to at least one of those three already. I haven't yet listened to the other two, but I'm familiar with one of the other two. And these are probably the uncoolest records I've ever shown proudly on this channel. But that's like a matter of honesty to in the career of a record buyer. There's not only cool underground records or something like that. Sometimes you have the urge to discover or experience something that's that's looked down upon by some. But those are well respected bands. One of the two groups that I bought a record by is Dire Straits. Dire Straits, they are kind of the epitome of played safe, soft rock, almost yacht rock, very commercial 80s music, one could say. But I always had a soft spot for them, and many regard this as the best album. I've never heard this album in its complete form. Maybe I know one or two of the singles. I haven't yet listened to it, but I bought it because I'm again a very uncool thing to say, but I really love Brothers in Arms. I have this album for many years now, and of course I also love Sultans of Swing, the first big hit from the late 70s. But by this time they really became this juggernaut, very commercial, for 80s, very commercial band. But I always loved this album. Maybe I should do a series of albums I shouldn't like but I do like, and this would be one of the contenders on this list. I even like the played out songs like Walk of Life, which many people can't listen to anymore. I think it's a bit of the same case as with a song like Obla Di Obla Da, which many people, even some Beatle fans, disrespect. I tend to think that those happy-go-lucky numbers are the most difficult for a songwriter to pull off. I don't think that Walk of Life or Obla Di Obla Da are overly cheesy or corny. I think they are brilliant, positive pop songs, and I really sometimes I'm not always in the mood for that, but I really like those kind of upbeat songs, and of course the more downbeat songs on that album, like especially Why Worry, and especially the title track Brothers in Arms. I think Brothers in Arms is kind of like the Stairway to Heaven of the 80s in a way, this song that builds up and builds up. I've always had a soft spot in my heart for this very uncool album, so I can't really wait to listen to Making Movies, since this has a better reputation amongst Dire Straits fans. The usual thing, like with many bands, and hardcore fans say they had a big album that was kind of selling out, and this is maybe the more cool album, but of course also a big hit album, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. And the other two Uncool albums I bought are by Jethro Tull. I'm in a Jethro Tull phase right now. I really hate this, maybe a too strong word, but I really dislike prog rock, or most of prog rock. A couple of weeks ago I tried to get into prog rock once again and bought this very 5 LP compilation by Yes, and I listened only to the first album on this collection, this very cheap collection, €10 for 5 albums. You don't really do anything wrong with that. So I listened to the first album, Going for the One, and I can't stand it. So again I was reminded why I don't like prog rock, or most prog rock. And Jethro Tull also have this kind of image of being a proggy band, or a band that prog rock fans gravitate towards. So I was always a bit cautious. Of course, I knew big albums like Thick as a Brick. I have this in my collection for a long time now, and I really respect it and like it. I also know Aqualung. I think my father had Aqualung, and my girlfriend has Aqualung, but we never listened to it together. But I know we have it somewhere in here, somewhere stored. So I was never really a big fan of Jethro Tull, but you know, from listening to Thick as a Brick and Aqualung, I respected them. But there's another YouTube channel, another old white man rambling about music from Austria, from my country. I recommend you this channel. It's called Murdock's Music Minute, and you know he specializes kind of in talking about uncool records, but making them sound very intriguing. And he had I think it's the most popular video on his channel, ranking all the Jethro Tull albums, which is a lot. And you know, since I like his channel, I've watched this video without being a Jethro Tull fan. This like 1 hour video, and you know, I really that's the good thing about such videos, and I think that's the reason why people like me or him, many other people, do this kind of videos, because many people think it's for what do these videos talking about bands and ranking catalogs even exist? Who wants to watch this? Well, I think it's interesting if you're a music fan, because sometimes it's the pathway to discover something that you weren't familiar with, or you know that you didn't, where you think you don't like it, but maybe sometimes a video can make it so that you know can make it seem like, oh, maybe I missed out on something, or I didn't get something. And it was the same with Murdock's Music Minutes, ranking all the Jethro Tull albums video. So I thought I give them another chance. I really listened to Thick as a Brick, and I never enjoyed it more than this time, maybe also because of the video and all the insight he gave. And then I, went further, and alongside, when I bought the Yes albums, maybe I thought finally now this is the time where I'm ready for prog rock, and with Yes it didn't work. But I bought these 2 collections, again very cheaply, Jethro Tull. So these are 8 albums by Jethro Tull, the first 3, and 5 from mid to late 70s, early 80s even. And I really kind of fell in love with this, for people like me, a bit uncool band. And I don't even think they're uncool anymore. I think they're very cool in a way, because they just didn't give a fuck. They did what they wanted, and it's not really prog rock. My favorite album from this collection, and overall my favorite Jethro Tull album. I mean, I haven't listened to all albums. Now I have listened to like 10 or 11 albums of their 30 album catalog, but I think I listened to all the big ones now. And my favorite album from this collection, and in total, was Songs from the Wood. And this was really great listen. And this is where we are going with this video. This is one of the 2 Jethro Tull albums I finally bought on vinyl. And yeah, I love this album, Songs from the Wood. It's this other side of Jethro Tull that's really more for me. It has proggy parts, of course. It's in the DNA of the group, but this is more the folky, the whimsical, the almost pastoral sides of Jethro Tull, and I really, really love it. I'm a big fan of bands like the Incredible String Band, weird folk, psych folk, and those kind of more almost psychedelic folk groups from the late 60s, early 70s, maybe also Fairport Convention, stuff like that. And this reminds me of, some of the better Incredible String Band albums, but played by more competent musicians, especially Ian Anderson, I suppose, the mastermind. And it's really a crazy, great album, and I enjoyed it a lot. So I thought I'd try out another one. Again, it was like Murdock Music Minutes video recommended it to me, because the way he talked about it, I don't think it was even in his top 3 favorite Tull albums. I think it was like number 4, 5 or 6. But the way he talked about it, I thought I will like it, because I liked Songs from the Wood, and the way he talked about the minstrel in the gallery, made me think that I would enjoy this, and I was right. This is now my second favorite Jethro Tull album, so I can't make a total ranking of the group, of course, with just listening to 11 or 12 albums, but my top three would be Songs from the Wood, number one, Minstrel in the Gallery is my number two, and Figures of Brick is my number three. And yeah, I really liked it. And you know, my recent video was a Game of Thrones video, like the football video 3 or 4 weeks ago, again an outlier video. You know, sometimes it's more interesting for myself to try out different sorts of things, but this will always be, of course, mainly a music channel, and these kind of videos will be the like 80% of all videos. But you know, from time to time I will check out other things that interest me, like Game of Thrones. And you know, this cover, you know, the album arrived on Friday. That was the day when I made the Game of Thrones video, and this reminds me very much of a very iconic scene from Game of Thrones. The cover artwork looks a lot like the Red Wedding, you know, the setting of the Red Wedding. Maybe they were inspired by it, you know, the director of that episode, or maybe the showrunners had this picture in mind when they, you know, directed that episode. I think it's very, of course they are not those fable creatures in Game of Thrones, but you know, the musicians here in the gallery and all that stuff, it looks a lot like the Red Wedding to me. And it also sounds like that, you know, it's also this quirky, whimsical, folky, but also medieval sounding side of Jethro Tull that I really beginning to enjoy. I'm a big, like I said in my Game of Thrones video, I'm a big fan of medieval things and Renaissance things and Middle Ages and stuff like that. And this is really a great, you know, this is the perfect crossover between this kind of ancient music and rock music. You know, mostly if bands attempt that, it sounds very cheesy and awful. But Jethro Tull really pulled it off to be a rock band that's also medieval sounding, you know, something that Blackmore's Night by Ritchie Blackmore, of course, never really achieved without sounding very cheesy. But this is a great album with lots of character, and it's intense, and I really love it. I have to re-listen to it. I think it's an album that you have to listen to for repeated times. Also of the stories it tells, and it's really, you know, it's maybe a dark horse record in the catalog of Tull, because it's usually not in the top 3, top 4 albums, I think, in rankings, as far as I can tell after just watching Murdock's video. But I never really, you never really hear of this album outside of Jethro Tull fandom, so I don't think it's one of their biggest classics. Maybe I'm totally wrong here, but it sounds like an absolute masterpiece. I think it's a mid-70s, it's from the mid-70s, I think 75 or something like that. It's a mid-70s masterpiece. And also wanted to say, my copy, is that normal, or do I have a strange copy that I can resell for 500 euros to a Jethro Tull hardcore fan? Because this should be that way, but it's that way. But maybe it was a misprint on all the albums of this, all the versions of this album, I don't know. But yeah, very interesting. Maybe I don't think I will become a hardcore Jethro Tull fan. I have the feeling these albums are already the ones that I will enjoy most, because, like I said, I also have this collection now with the first 3 albums, and I don't really like them. I think some of them are regarded highly by fans, but to me, the early ones sound very much like a second-rate Jimi Hendrix experience. You know, it's this British blues rock thing, you know, the really interesting thing when Jethro Tull become ultra British and ultra, you know, pastoral, songs about the countryside and myths and things like that. That's for the most part not apparent on these albums. They're not bad, but they're not really for me. So I think I have now I have a grasp on Jethro Tull, and I know which albums I will gravitate to, and I will re-listen to Songs from the Wood and Minstrel in the Gallery, I think, many times this year. And let's wait what I will have to say about Making Movies by Dire Straits. I don't think it will ever be as good as this album to me, but you know, I'm curious. So this was like the the episode where I'm talking about an Uncool record buying spree. I think the previous record buying video by myself was on the opposite end, you know, with lots of post-punk and power pop and stuff like that. So those are the yin and yangs in the career of a record buyer, you know, the cool and the uncool. Yeah, thank you very much for watching. Until next time, goodbye.